Welcome to the Markets Happy Hour podcast, a weekly markets update for investors the world over. Each week we discuss inflation, geopolitics, interest rates, equity markets, and other asset classes. To try to answer the question, what does this mean for my investment portfolio? Let's dive in.
So any thoughts yourself on inflation, what you're seeing, and how this is factoring into policy?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple things I'd point out there is there's a hope amongst a lot of consumers, especially in the US, but also as well in the Europe, that inflation will not just slow down and not just get deflation, but also that we would get lowering prices. The problem is that once you have inflation starting to baked in, it filters through to so much of the economy, from the farmers starting up to the shippers, up to the grocery stores, to the restaurants themselves. And so the price level is something that, we're likely not going to have go back ever to pre-pandemic levels. The concurrent problem, especially in the US, as an example, is that the minimum wage has not increased in real terms for decades, whereas prices have continued to go up. And so something that happened commonly in the US was that people would be working two jobs just trying to make ends meet and then finding prices increasing. This is also happening not just at the grocery store and at nice restaurants, but also at fast food restaurants like McDonald's and Burger King. So the lived experience of people is that inflation is something that is here to stay. And even if it's slowing down, the price levels will never get back to something that they were used to before.
And that's a great point about labor, because it just happens to be the next slide I'm bringing up here. There was the concern that labor would be this lagging indicator, and that we would have, you mentioned minimum wage, not increasing, but that there would be some pressure. Some of the cities in the US have increased their minimum wage. And it does seem, though, that even now inflationary pressures from the employment market appear to be easing. Of course, this is the kind of good news is bad news phenomenon, that the reason the pressures are easing is probably because some of those employment numbers are weaker. And I think, just to move, keeping on the economic vibe check. So we've been speaking about the K-shaped economy for some time, concerned about the consumer at the lower end of the K, the kind of bottom right side of the K, the consumer that is not doing any better. And I thought it was interesting here. We've spoken about fast food decreasing, and some of the gainers, the beneficiaries of that would be grocery stores. And what I thought was interesting here is how Walmart, a very bricks and mortar grocery store, despite having had a reasonably good online presence, has massively outperformed Amazon over 5 years, according to the chart on the right, and then passing the 1 trillion market cap itself, as shown on the chart on the left. So I'd say between that and the consumer confidence being at a low, I think the market is telling us something here, or at least the economy is telling us something.
Yeah, it's really, I know the K-shaped economy is the common nomenclature, but I want to add a new one. I call it the W-shaped economy. And that is the difference between two different types of shoppers, particularly in the US. The ones that go to Walmart and get a lot of groceries and all sundry goods at Walmart, which are ubiquitous across the United States. And then the ones shopping at Whole Foods, which is on the very high end, much more expensive to go to. And it feels that there's two types of jobs and careers available in the US these days. The first is at the very low end of the economy, the entry-level jobs that are paying either minimum wage or not far from it. And then the higher end jobs, the finance, the consulting, the law, the jobs paying 100,000 plus to start. But those are increasingly not showing up as much either. And with AI and AI tools replacing a lot of the mid-level, entry-level jobs, this W-shaped economy, if you'll allow me to use that, I think is only going to continue.